Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast and our very first segment in our new series, Small School AD. We're going to have our first Small School AD on in just a moment, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. So take a listen to the shout outs, then listen to our small school AD presentation, and then go visit these sponsors. If you're not already using them, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more, but Hometown Ticketing is digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, and more customization. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to help you make the best online ticketing solution. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their scoreboards in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted all of our sports to benefit, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches and our student athletes just loved what Huddle provided that allowed them to experience sports at a new level. Our fans loved it too. Go to huddle.com and join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper's the official social media graphics solution for us, and it's the fastest way that you can create world-class content for your school social media channel. You need to promote your team, celebrate your athletes. Gipper is going to help you do that, just like they do for 4,000 high school and college athletic programs around the country. It's professional social media graphics in seconds. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We want to thank Home Campus for their support. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Communicating with coaches, with your state association, with kids, with parents, uploading rosters, uploading digital forms, you name it. Home Campus does it better, does it faster, and for you, makes things a lot easier. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com, and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to showcase your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or your school's Hall of Fame. Go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame, mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser and then got little, if any, return on your investment? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. It works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, or your parents, you're really missing out. Athletic directors already get feedback from the complainers, the people who want to gripe about everything, but that's typically a very small percentage. Athletics surveys will connect you to that small group. They'll also connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And that information is a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking to a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. They're going to create a custom survey that'll let you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment on the Educational AD Podcast. And as I said in the intro, our very first segment in our new series, Small School Athletic Director. We've got some ADs from across the country. The unique thing is they are all at small schools. Enrollment in the high school is 300 or less. And we're going to ask them over the coming weeks to share some best practices from their perspective as an athletic director at a small school. Our very first guest is Will Bryson. He is the director of athletics at Mingo Valley Christian School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and we're excited to have him on. So, Will, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your school, and then I'm excited to hear what you have to share on Small School AD.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about being on. As you said, my name is Will Bryson. I'm originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Moved to Tulsa after spending some time at the University of Oklahoma working for the men's basketball program there under Lon Kruger. Took the basketball job at this small school at Mongo Valley Christian in Tulsa. And really just kind of segueing from that, I took the head basketball coaching job and was a PE teacher for 5 years, and then some like events happened, and I ended up landing into the athletic director role here, and so I'm in my second year in that role. We are right off of Highway 169. We're right smack dab in the middle of two really huge schools in Tulsa Union and Broken Arrow High School, and we are got a midst of a lot of different private schools within the area. So we are very small compared to those. We got about 350 kids, K through 12. 112 of those are high school, and about 200 and about 15 are 6 through 12 if you added those. So we're growing, but we're still small in the landscape of what we're doing here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, again, as I've shared before, I got my start at small schools. The experience is definitely unique. It's not a better or worse or good or bad. It is different. So what do you have for our listeners on this very first segment?
For our listeners, if you are an AD, I mean, you wear a lot of hats, and that's no different at a small school. I'll probably say a lot. I'm going to start with the not wouldn't say negative, but probably cons, or even that is just finding the support within the school system, finding those stakeholders that believe in sport, and being at a school like ours where academics and theater are very, very successful. Um, you got to find the balance within all of those things because all your kids want to do everything. So being able to find the support to be able to have those things and be able to work around some of those things, which I say is a con. It's not really a con, but it's one of those things that at a small school you have to work around. But if you have a lot of support and you can build that support, you can make all three things work. The heavy workload that you get academically, the theater, which brings the inner community together, and then athletics, which also brings our community together, but also you're able to take your community out to the public, and the public are able to see you more in that light. So that's probably where I will start. Secondly is one of the bright things about being a small school athletic director is being able to build those relationships. I say relationships are very key at the top to the bottom. And admin, I'm lucky enough to be at a school where the administration is very supportive, but also our teachers, getting them involved in everything that we do, but also building relationships with the students where, if you're at a big 6A, 4A, 5A, or whatever, class you're in, you don't get to build those inner relationships with those kids because there's so many of them. But here, you get 115 kids, you get to know at least 90 of them really well. And so, lucky enough, we have a good portion of all of our students involved in something. So that makes the job a lot easier. So being able to build relationships is very key as well, and being a part of the small school community.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of the things we've talked about before is there's typically, not always, but typically you don't have that tug of war between, Billy, you shouldn't play football. You need to play basketball year round because those kids are playing three sports. And the same with the girls too. They go from volleyball or cross country in the fall to, whatever your winter sports are, obviously basketball and others, and then the spring. So I think that's one of the cool things is that you get to, as you said, build those relationships.
Yeah. And having a backing to your coaches, because as you're battling a lot of those, for example, here in our spring sports, we have probably maybe 8 or 9 athletes juggling 3 sports right now. So we have, soccer, golf, and track, explaining to those coaches and explaining to those kids that, that yes, I want you to do all those things, but you also have to explain to your coaches and work out with your coaches and figure time out to at least be able to do one of those things at least once a week. That way you can touch it and feel it and prepare. And your coaches got to be in line with it too. And so that's it can be a pro and it can be a con. um, but as long as you're building those relationships, I think those are very intrinsic, especially at a small school, to be able to get through some of those things. That's the way all of our sports can be successful.
You touch on a couple of great points there. One was the relationships, between AD and coach, coach to coach, athlete to coach, and then along with that, the communication. Okay, if you want to do two sports, and we did it a lot. We had kids that did two sports during the same season, but they communicated their desire to the coaches. We made sure the coaches were on board. We talked to the parents. You said, hey, it's going to be a challenge, but bottom line is it's not, let's say, the softball team and the soccer team, it's the school. Okay. We want the school to have success. And if a girl or a boy can help both teams and the coaches are on board with it, why not? Let's see the school be successful. And you talk pro con. I know you're just tossing words out there, but we would use those. And I didn't invent this. I stole it from somebody else. These are opportunities. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe we take advantage of this opportunity. Maybe we choose not to. And it's not right or wrong. It's just, what opportunities do we want to choose? Anything else while we got you? I know it's a busy time in spring.
Just in organization, being organized as within the spectrum of being a small school, we don't always have the resources. For example, my school, we don't have an on-campus basketball facility, so we use a local college who used to have basketball. We're lucky enough to be able to use their facility, but we also don't get to practice there all the time. So we use a litany of gyms around the area, and that also kind of goes for our volleyball programs as well. Luckily, we have a soccer facility on campus, but also we got to resource out our track practices. So being organized and making sure that we can make those communications, because as you may know, that if you don't have your own things on campus, your practice times are always scheduled to change. So always being on top of things with communication, the best thing that we can do with our parents and balancing all of our schedules out is communicating and then being organized and making sure we get that communication out to parents, because if they're going to be on your side and they're going to take your kids to practices and all of those things, they need to know ahead of time. And I struggle with this sometimes too, because you never know. You might have a practice at 3 o'clock, you get a bad news text at 2:30, and you got to scramble, but we're not always, going to be perfect. But the more communication, the better. That's what I've learned. So that those are some things I'll put in my toolbox. I listen to your podcast all the time, so but those will be some of the things I'll put into my toolbox to make sure that you're successful and continue to grow your athletic departments.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned a very frequent challenge of the small school AD is with facilities, and in your case, you don't have a gym, so you're expecting to go use somebody else's gym, and oh, hey, sorry, we booked a flower show in there or something from the community, and oh, why didn't you tell me that? But yeah, those are definitely some challenges you don't often see at some of the bigger schools. Well, this has been very cool getting to know you and having you share. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or just add you to their network. And before we do that, you mentioned those two schools, Tulsa Union and Broken Arrow. Got to give a shout out to Dustin Smith, the athletic director of Broken Arrow, Amanda Snyder, one of his assistants. I think he has like 10 assistant ADs. But no, Amanda's great. And then at Tulsa Union, Emily Barkley is their AD and her assistant, Stephanie Blackwell, all great friends. Now I've added another Oklahoma friend to my network. But if somebody wants to add you to their network, how do they get a hold of Will Bryson?
Yeah, yeah, and to segue off of that, they have been really good in my journey as an athletic director. As I've been one of the first people from my school to get involved in our athletic association here in Oklahoma. So, being more involved in that, and they've been very kind and as well to kind of help me along my journey as well. But if you guys would like to get a hold of me, I'm fairly open and transparent and available. My email is Will Bryson, Bryson, all lowercase, at Mingo Valley, MingoValley.org. You can also contact me by phone. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me is by text. 405 326 6183. Again, that's 405 326 6183. And then if you'd like to give me a follow on Twitter, I'm pretty active talking about sports on there. So, I mean, I'm always talking about something. It is at capital MVC underscore capital C as in coach for coach, OACH, Bryson, Bryson, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And I'm fairly active on there as well. And I'm a bevy of information. I'm still learning as an AD myself. And so if you guys like to connect, I like learning from people, and that's why I'm in all these groups on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere. So
Well, we appreciate you sharing with our listeners today in the very first episode, Small School AD. All the best as you continue with a very busy spring sports schedule. And hopefully, we'll get to see you in Austin this coming December at the national conference.
I'm planning on making that. I'm making my schedules right now so I can make it.
Outstanding. Okay. Well, thanks again. We also want to thank our listeners, and we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening. We do this just about every day with new content, sharing best practices for ADs and coaches. Come back next time for another great episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Well, before we go, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors that make this all possible. Go to huddle.com. Change the way you see the game. Huddle.com. Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. We want to thank Gipper. Create world-class content for your school social media channel on Gipper.com. Snap Raise, hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. Go to snapraise.com. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Go to homecampus.com, see all the great things they can do for you. Sideline Interactive indoor score tables, probably the best purchase I ever made as an AD. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, your school record boards, your school's Hall of Fame, put it on a digital touchscreen video board, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their products today. And Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. They're going to let you take the pulse of everybody in your athletic program. Athleticsurveys.com. Thanks for listening to this inaugural segment of Small School AD. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.